Hello, everyone. I think we'll go ahead and get started. It's a couple minutes after. So thank you for joining us for our final session of our inventory management webinar series of 2022. This session will go into how to use the inventory module to generate barcodes, and we'll also showcase our mobile app. We will be recording today's session and providing a copy of this and the previous session recordings as a link in the PowerPoint presentation that Libby goes through today. So you'll have all the resources at your fingertips following this presentation. And if you do have any questions during the presentation, please drop them in the Q&A for us, and we'll get to them either live or we'll just answer them within the Q&A itself. So let's get started. I am Samantha Savage. I'm a customer success manager here at Quartzy, and I'm pleased to introduce you to your presenter today, Libby Danielle, who is also a customer success manager here at Quartzy. And she has extensive experience with Quartzy as a former user and a lab manager. We also have our great mobile app senior product manager, Chris Tappy, on standby to help answer your questions. So I will go ahead and hand it over to Libby.
Thank you, Samantha. So hi, everybody. I'm so glad that you were able to join us for this final session in the series. For anyone who's joining us for the first time today, I just wanted to point out a few resources that we have linked for you in our PowerPoint presentation. As Samantha mentioned, you'll have access to this after the presentation, so you can go on ahead and click through for yourself. But just to highlight these resources, first I would like to show you our Quartzy University upcoming events page. You can find all kinds of webinars like this one on the page. And any series that we have to highlight new and old features will show up here. So check back frequently if you're interested in more series like this. I also wanted to highlight our Quartzy blog called The Queue. We have a variety of different articles on here that could be of interest to you, from scientific articles to things about our product. So definitely check it out if you're interested in learning a little bit more. And then we have a fantastic support page. So anything and everything that you might need to know about the platform can be found here. So definitely, if you're more of a do-it-yourself kind of person, poke around, but we are always available to help if you do need any support. So definitely reach out if you do need help. And then we also have our Quartzy LinkedIn Lab Managers group. This is linked in our presentation. If you are interested in joining the group, we announce series like this here as well. As you can see, Samantha just posted about this final session of our inventory management series, and you can connect with other Quartzy users, and all of the CSMs are members of this group, so we can interact with you there as well. And then my contact information is on this slide. So if you have any questions about the presentation or need any additional help, don't hesitate to reach out. So just to kind of talk about what we've gone through so far in this series, as Samantha mentioned, we do have links to the previous session recordings on this slide. When you receive it today, you'll see a link to the recording for this session down at the bottom as well. So we went over cleaning up your inventory, preventative workflows for keeping that inventory clean. And today we're going to talk about how you can use barcodes and the mobile app to make all of these things much simpler for yourself. So today we'll be going through a few different topics. So first, we're going to talk about how to print barcodes from your inventory. Then we're going to go in kind of the best uses for the barcodes and our suggestions to you when trying to implement a barcoding system in your lab. And then we'll look into the mobile app, how it looks, how all of the processes with the app work, etc. And we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers at the end. But just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in that Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen throughout the presentation. We'll answer some through chat and some live, so don't hesitate, put them in there. So before we jump into our demo, I just wanted to kind of go over our vision for Quartzy. our goal with the platform is to create a connected lab. So we want all of your workflows to kind of seamlessly feed into each other throughout the lab supply lifecycle. So through requests to, your shipments being received, added to your inventory, and going into the re-request cycle, we want to make this as seamless as possible for you and make it really easy for you to track your supplies and find your supplies. And I think that you'll see adding the mobile app can really lower the activation energy for a lot of the steps in this process as well. So I think it's a fantastic partner to the Quartzy platform. So with that, we're going to go into our live demo. So I'm going to show you a few items in my demo lab. I'm going to navigate to my inventory tab here at the top, since the inventory is where we can print our barcodes from. And then if you want to narrow things down in a specific way, our filters on this left-hand side are a fantastic way to do that. So of course, I probably don't want to print barcodes for every single thing in my lab. It doesn't necessarily make sense to barcode everything that I have in my inventory. So narrowing things down is, a great way to print a bunch of barcodes, but not have any waste that you don't need for things that you're trying to barcode. So to narrow my items down, I think I'm going to look at my general supply type, since these are things that I will have in my stock room. They probably make a lot of sense to barcode since they're on shelves, etc., and in bins. And then to narrow this down even more, maybe I'm just working on barcoding things that are in my main stock room today. So that's kind of maybe what I'm worried about implementing the barcode system for first. By using these filters, I can have a page that just has the items that are general supplies in my main stockroom present. And then if you want to print out barcodes for just a few things, you can easily check them individually. But since I've narrowed things down and I have confirmed that, I do want to barcode all of these items, I've just used this bulk check action. You could always do this and uncheck a few stragglers if you need to, but this is, a great way to easily barcode everything in an area that fits what you're looking for. And so once I have selected all of the inventory items that I would like to create a barcode for, it's very simple. We just click this Print Barcodes button. And right now we do only have a few options, or one option for your barcode format. We're going to talk a little bit later about, what might be added here. But currently we have an Avery 2x4-inch template for the barcodes, and it will make you a Microsoft Word document to print them from. So to show you what that looks like, we will download ours. And you'll see that I have this nice Word document with all of my barcodes for the items that I've selected generated in here. And, if you aren't using Avery 2x4 labels or anything like that, you can easily print this on paper and slide it into plastic sleeves and things like that. So we'll talk about, best uses a little bit more later. But you can see I have the barcodes for all of the items I selected with plenty of information, so I can actually tell what's what when I'm trying to place these items. All right, so that's essentially most of what we were going to look at in our live demo today, but I wanted to pause and see if we have any questions about printing barcodes from the inventory.
Yes, Libby. So we have a question about whether we can generate barcode labels of different sizes and if that's kind of on the roadmap.
That is certainly something that's on the roadmap, and I will, throw to Chris a little bit more to talk about future directions at the end of the presentation. But right now, the only size that we are supporting is that 2x4 size. If you are interested in using a different barcoding system, maybe, you already have something in place in the lab, we can certainly help you set that up as well. So if you do want to use a different size barcodes, or you are already kind of trying to use barcodes, to implement that, you would just add a custom field within an item. So we could have, something within our item type that has a field for your barcode ID. And so just to briefly show you what that might look like. If I did want to make a custom field for my barcode ID, I could go into my general supply. And I could put in a number if I were generating my own barcodes. And then this would be searchable by our app in the same way that our serial numbers are searchable. So you could do that as well, if that's helpful to you. But yes, we do plan on adding more sizes and formats.
Excellent. Yes, this one's related to that. So it says we barcode every item in our inventory. Do you have plans to allow printing of barcodes from different medium? For example, a WASP printer that makes small labels from a continuous roll.
That is something that we will be, considering, definitely different sizes and formats. But again, if you are already generating barcodes with the printer, we can easily accommodate that. If you're interested in making your barcodes in the same way that we're generating them, you can simply use an item's serial number to do so. So you'll see when I click on any item, they have a serial number here at the top of the item detail panel. You can use your current barcoding system to just encode this number, and it will function in exactly the same way as ours. Or you can use, if your barcodes have their own specific numbers that are pre-generated, you can use that custom field option as well. So those are two good ways to be able to barcode everything in all kinds of different formats before we explore more formats.
Great answer. Is it possible to adjust the size of the printable barcode from the Word document?
Right now, I don't believe that is supported.
Actually, Libby, sorry, just to jump in. When you download it, we can't adjust it from the print action. But when it's in the Word document, it is fully editable. It essentially puts the content into predefined tables that fit the 2x4 label. But you can print it essentially, which means download it to Word, and it can be manipulated from there. It's just we can't guarantee it'll fit the various templates that are out there until we make predefined templates for the other sizes, if that makes sense. So,
yes,
sorry
and
to jump in.
That's all right. I do want to add, depending on how drastically you are resizing things, this could affect the way that the barcode prints. So that's something to keep in mind. I would give it a quick test before you go on ahead and resize, 100 barcodes for your lab. But yes, that is just something to keep in mind. But the Word template is editable.
And to add to that, we are testing QR codes instead of the standard code 128 format barcodes, which you can shrink them a little smaller without losing the fidelity. So that's something we're testing on our end right now.
If you have multiple labs that have the same chemicals, will they all have an individual barcode?
Well, that is a fantastic question. And actually, the next thing that we were going to go into will address this perfectly. So I'll pause to continue a little bit more of the question and answer before I continue with the presentation. But I would just like to point out that when you're printing your barcodes, you will have a lab-specific prefix and then a serial number attached to each barcode. So this will help if you're in multiple labs and you need to kind of toggle between inventories. You might have, or you almost surely will have the same serial numbers between labs. And so using this lab-specific prefix will help the app know, oh, that's not in lab A, this is an item in lab B. So whether you're generating your own barcodes or printing them from our system, you can use this prefix, which you will see anytime you generate barcodes or download that template. And so you can use that to define which lab an item is in. Do we have any other questions live before I move on a little bit?
I think we can go ahead and move on for now, and then we'll collect on these other questions afterward.
Excellent. All right, so we just talked a little bit about the numbers that are associated to your barcodes. So the serial number is attached to an item in your inventory, and the lab prefix will help the app know which lab an item belongs to, since serial numbers will not be unique between different labs. You'll see, of course, there is a barcode included on your label. That's just encoding this lab prefix and serial number information. And the app is essentially just searching that information in your inventory to be able to allow you to do all of the actions that the app allows, like re-requesting or updating the inventory stock, things like that. You'll also see that our barcode labels have the item name and other information about the item. I think this is fantastic because, of course, if you have barcodes everywhere on your shelves, etc., sometimes it's hard to know exactly what goes where if it becomes empty at any point. So this kind of doubles as a label for the area that you're keeping an item as well, which I think is fantastic. So going into implementing a barcoding system, we have some suggestions for the best uses for your barcodes. So barcodes are often best when you're placing them somewhere where an item is kind of permanently kept or semi-permanently kept, so that the physical location of the barcode will correspond to the physical location of the item. So stockroom shelves, of course, are a great example. Things like storage bins, drawers or cabinets where you keep supplies, and then fridge or freezer doors are another option for where you can put all kinds of barcodes for your items. And you can see that if you need to use barcodes in a more semi-permanent fashion, or if there's a storage area that's kind of difficult to label, like a fridge or freezer, you can definitely do kind of creative things like using plastic sleeves or label holders to kind of, store those barcodes in a good place while not allowing them to be damaged or cluttering an area where they might not fit so well. So, if you have something like a tissue culture media fridge, this is a great example of where you might want a sleeve that has the barcodes that belong in that fridge. Things like flammable cabinets, this could also be a good use case where you don't want to obstruct the warning label on the cabinet or have a bunch of barcodes inside of the cabinet. Putting them in a sleeve on a wall nearby or something like that could be great. Same with gas cylinders, or if you have a storage area where you kind of keep overflow supplies and things rotate a little bit. This is also another good use case for kind of semi-permanently using the barcodes and being able to swap them in and out. So if you're implementing a barcode system in your lab, it's definitely a good idea to kind of discuss it as a group and make a plan before you ask everyone to start using it. So some examples of how people might want to use the barcoding system: you could have everyone in the lab scanning barcodes, kind of put the responsibility on the group to update stocks when they're taking things from the stockroom or the fridge. Some labs even, have dedicated tablets in the stockroom to be able to more easily do that. Our app is available on tablets as well, so this is something that you're able to do with the app. Some labs prefer to have the lab manager completely in charge of the inventory. So maybe the lab manager does frequent walkthroughs of the lab or is the only one who's adding or removing items from the stockroom. So this is another potential application of our barcoding system. But my personal favorite is the combo approach. So, having everyone in the group updating the stocks as much as possible, but doing frequent walkthroughs just to make sure that everything is actually up to date. And this could be done by a lab manager, a student worker, anyone with the app can kind of go through and make sure everything is looking up to date when they're checking the barcodes and looking at your inventory. And so we just have a few do's and don'ts for the barcodes. So definitely, trying to use barcodes for permanent or semi-permanent item locations is a good idea. It's definitely not fantastic to put a barcode up somewhere and then have to rip it down and reprint it constantly. So just suggesting you keep that in mind when you're applying them throughout the lab. And then, of course, printing them on those supported labels. Give this a test if you do need to reformat the barcodes before you print a ton of them. And of course, you can print them on paper as well. Like we were looking at with those plastic sleeves, this can be a great option if you're, keeping a bunch of things in the same fridge or things like that. And then, of course, do enjoy having a much more streamlined inventory ordering and receiving experience with the app, which we'll go into soon. The don'ts for barcodes: you don't want to apply barcodes in places that might dampen or damage them. Of course, this will make it so that they're not scannable. And so we don't want you to have too many issues with that. Don't feel obligated to reprint your barcodes if you've edited an item. So as we kind of discussed a little bit, they're linked to an item's serial number. So whatever you update about an item within the platform will not change the serial number of the item. So you don't need to reprint the barcode so long as that stays the same. And definitely don't hesitate to reach out with questions or concerns. We are here to help you. We can help you if you need to use, barcodes that you haven't generated from Quartzy, or, if you already have your own system in place, how to kind of input that into the system. We can help you implement things like that. Just reach out to us. And I want to pause again briefly for questions before we go into the mobile app section. So Samantha, do we have anything else that's come up?
Great. We do have quite a few questions, and we'll start with the one from Bonnie. Can you scan the number if we do make a custom barcode, or would we have to type it in every time?
So if you do make a custom barcode, I'm assuming this means with your own system. Yes, our app can scan, whatever barcode that you have created. It's just searching based on the number encoded by that barcode. So, whatever kind of barcode generator you're using, as long as it's a number that's associated to the item, either through that serial number or through that custom field, it will work with the app.
And Libby, one thing I want to add to that real quick. If this is referring to, like, if you have, let's say, a random number that came on a pre-printed sheet, or your barcode software predefined a number, that number needs to then be linked to the Quartzy item. And what I know some people have done is, if you have like a separate, a $15 USB scanner, when you open up an item in Quartzy, rather than typing in a field, you can scan the barcode with the USB scanner and it'll copy it in there. So that's an option to bulk import this information if you need to, or not in bulk, but if you need to do it quickly for one-off items rather than typing it. You should also be able to import your inventory with a custom field, right, Libby?
Yes, absolutely. I think, Chris, you better understood the question than I did. So you can certainly, use that bulk export and import functionality to bulk import those barcode numbers into the custom field for your custom barcodes. So you don't have to type it in individually to every item, so long as, you use that spreadsheet to import the information. We did talk about that a little bit in our first session. So, that's definitely a good resource to go back to if you're looking at exporting and importing information for your inventory. But reach out if you're having any trouble with that, and we're definitely happy to help.
Excellent. And I've seen this one. This is a comment, but I think this is a really great topic. So they would like to be able to be prompted when at the received page to print the barcodes and choose the number of labels for the items received. Chris, maybe you can comment a little bit on this kind of feature request.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a great request. It's something that I think that we're aware of and planning to incorporate into the flow. I don't have a specific timeline on that, but what we're envisioning is when you are receiving, you have the option to then, print one barcode optionally that you put on the shelf. Or I know some people want, if I'm receiving 8 bottles, they would like to print 8 of them so they can put it on the bottle. Those are options that we're exploring now, especially in conjunction with the different sizes. So that's a great request, and something that we're definitely thinking about. Yeah, and I believe wasn't there one? Oh, I think you already addressed it, Samantha. Never mind.
Yep. And then will the serial number be different every time for the same product?
So the serial number for an item, as long as you are updating your inventory record, will be the same. So if you have the same item that you've re-requested from your inventory and you're updating that record, the serial number will not change for that item. That being said, if you aren't following that ideal workflow and you are creating a lot of duplicates of an item, you will be seeing multiple serial numbers for that. So I would recommend, going through that ideal workflow, which we did discuss in our second session. You can review that recording as well, just to see the step-by-step of that. But re-requesting items from your inventory record will mean that when you receive them, they'll have the same serial number.
Excellent answer. And will the barcode be able to be scanned within a plastic sleeve?
Yes, I have personally tested this out with a page protector, and it did work just fine. It might be something to note that if your sleeves are getting, degraded or dirty, you might want something more substantial, like perhaps like a plexiglass or something like that, but it does work through a plastic sleeve.
Excellent. And if the barcode is damaged, can you manually input the numbers to delete or edit?
Yes, absolutely. So we will talk a little bit about this when we go into the app, but you can manually edit items through the app actions as well. So barcode scanning makes things a lot easier, but you can still edit and re-request any item that's in your lab or your inventory with the app as well.
Excellent. And can you change the info fields on the label? It would be nice to personalize the label with specific information for their lab.
Yes, so the text fields that you saw on the right-hand side of the label, you can edit those in Word as you wish. The only thing I'm cautioning is resizing that barcode, just testing that will work before you print a ton of them, but editing the text will not affect it. So change those however you like.
And I'll jump in here and say that's also something, it's an enhancement that we want to make. I know there's another comment about the min and the max thresholds. That's definitely something we want to put on the labels. And then in addition to that, hopefully some more flexibility in the future on, well, I do care about part number, but maybe I don't care about the catalog, or I guess min max threshold or something like that. We do want to put that flexibility into the printing process at some point in the future. Absolutely.
Great. All right. And when printing, how will it print in respect to the inventory view? So if the inventory is sorted alphabetically when choosing to print the labels with specific locations, will it print in that alphabetical order or the order viewed?
That is a great question. I actually have not tested that yet, so we could take a look at that. So we'll see if that microtainer shows up first on our download. Yes, it looks like sorting in that direction will generate your barcodes in that direction as well.
Great.
I'm glad it works live. It's what it's supposed to do. Whatever, yeah, it basically just goes down the list top to bottom, whatever you've got on the screen. Then of course you can, pick the first one and then skip the second one and just select that list to make to print whatever items you need, but it should follow that top to bottom order.
I'm reading
Do we
through
have
this.
any other questions before we jump into the mobile app itself?
Yes, so there's a question about writing historical wrongs. Is there an easy way to write historical wrongs in our lab's inventory record? i.e., we historically have generated many duplicates of the same items.
Yes. So writing historical wrongs, I think the first thing that you would certainly want to do is just get everyone in your lab on board with the workflow where you're re-requesting from your inventory. I will direct you to that second session recording best practices, just so that you have a visual to look through yourself and show your lab. In order to combine duplicate items, I believe we went over that in both sessions, but that is something that you can either do in bulk using the spreadsheets by deleting the duplicates and updating the quantity of the main item that you want to keep, or you can do it, in the inventory itself, if you needed to do so, just by kind of manually selecting the duplicates to delete and properly updating the quantity of the one item that you want to keep. But I would definitely start with getting everyone on board with that best practice of keeping your inventory records in the loop when you're requesting things and all of that good stuff.
Yes, definitely check out that second session, best practices. We go through multiple examples of how to tackle that issue and then help you kind of set up for success moving forward. So you can just re-request from the inventory to help reduce those duplications in your inventory.
And I will also add that since the barcodes are linked to inventory items, if your lab members are using barcodes to make requests, that will seriously help your workflow as well, because they will be re-requesting from the inventory.
Great. And we have a great question here. Would the global search function be available on the mobile app?
I will let Chris weigh in on that one.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as of right in the future, for sure, we have aspirations and plans to basically get all of Quartzy onto the mobile app someday. Right now, it's really focused on what are the main use cases that a mobile app or being mobile as a user in a lab that it can really help with. So that's why we're focused on the things that Libby will show here in a moment. Global search isn't there today, but that's something that I think we can expect in the future.
Okay, and one last question. Will the same barcode scanning work when the product is removed and stocked from the inventory? So I think once the item's been removed from the inventory, will the barcode still work?
If the item has been entirely deleted from your inventory, then that serial number will no longer be going to an inventory record. If the quantity is just 0 in your inventory, but the item still exists, then yes, the barcode will still work.
Wonderful. I think we can move along, Libby.
All right. Well, we can go into the mobile app itself now. So you can have the power of Quartzy in your pocket with the mobile app. I love that slogan. And the mobile app, I do love the fact that it is currently pretty simple, because I think it has everything that you really need all in one place. It's action-based. So we have 3 different actions you can do using the mobile app. You can update the in-stock quantity of an item, so updating your inventory record. You can request more of an item, or you can receive items. And I did want to point out, especially since this was brought up earlier, if you are in multiple labs, there is this little toggle in the top right corner of the app, so you can switch back and forth between labs. If you aren't in the correct lab while you're scanning a barcode, you can also toggle it here, but it will just tell you, hey, the lab prefix on this barcode isn't for the lab that you're in. So, that's preventative, so that you won't be updating gloves in one lab that had the same serial number as your tubes in another lab by accident. And so once you choose an action to do with the app, it's a pretty simple, 3-step process. You choose, you scan your barcode, and then you edit the details associated to that action and just submit it. So I have a couple of GIFs to show you exactly what the app looks like that we're going to go through. Unfortunately, sharing a phone screen is not the easiest on Zoom, so bear with me while I just make sure that they loop properly to talk you through them. But we will, kind of be looking at the processes in a live type of way. So the first process I'd like to look at is updating the in-stock quantity of an item. So you can see that from my main menu in the application, I'm choosing the update in-stock quantity option. I'm scanning the barcode for my label tape. I'm deciding whether I want to add or remove quantity to this inventory record. I'm updating the number that I either want to add or remove. And I can click update to finish my action, or I can click update and next if I want to scan another barcode right away to update that inventory record. So requesting more, very similar. I chose the request more option. I'm scanning my label tape barcode, and I'm choosing how much more of this item I want to request. And I can add those details that you would normally add in the request portion, like the grant ID or notes or the type of an item. Could mark it urgent if I needed to and input a date there. So it's much like the way that this functions on the platform as well. And again, I can click to add my request, or I can click add and next if I'm going to scan another barcode to make another request right away. To receive items, you would click the receive items action on your phone screen. And then currently you would search for the item that you're looking to receive, and we'll be searching your orders. You can select the item that you're receiving. You can take a picture of the packing slip to upload if you'd like. And you can update the other information that will come up, such as the item location, as you normally would. And then again, you'll click save to confirm and finish, or save and next if you want to search another item to receive. I did want to point out that the location details when receiving an item do include freezer box functionality. So if that's something that you need to use to input an item into your inventory, that is available on the app, and you'll see it pop up much like you do on the regular platform, where you'll be able to choose slots in a freezer box as well. And then the last thing I wanted to point out was that manual search option. So the manual search option is available for, any action in the app that you need to use it for. I think that this is a fantastic function because you can search by, the item name or the catalog number if that's something that you have available. And you can see this manual search button at the bottom of the barcode scanning is how I'm reaching this, this function. You can also search by other terms like item type or location names. So you might see that in the example, I searched by antibody, and I found all items that have antibody included. So we'll just go through step by step. So I'm typing antibody in my search field, and I'm seeing all kinds of items in my inventory that fall under that type category. And this is a great way to, look up an item as a certain type or location that you need to request that you might not have access to really specific information for. And of course, anything that doesn't have a barcode. And then I would love to allow Chris to weigh in a little bit more on this, but there are still some future developments going on with the app. We did want to get, this core functionality to you all as soon as possible to make sure that the things that you'd be doing most were, of course, what we focused on and what we made available immediately. But we do have some plans for future developments in this barcode and app functionality. Of course, we talked about the barcode sizes and options, maybe a QR code option coming soon. Additional functionality within the app. And I did want to point you to our product roadmap, which we have linked in the presentation, where you will be able to check out, the projects that we're working on and when we're hoping to release them. But Chris, if you have anything to add about future directions, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. So I think we covered a lot of it. The questions today have been great. So thank you for everybody who sent in the questions. I guess to kind of recap, we're testing adding a QR code option to the same label templates that we have today, which would then allow resizing a little bit better and a little bit more clarity for some of the more data intense serial numbers. Beyond that, we'll, like I said, it'll expand to other sizes and options. The ability to print the barcodes while you're receiving and things like that. And eventually, what we really want to get to is support for the various printers. So we know people have Dymo printers or Zebra printer or things like that you can print directly from a roll. That's really where we want to get to, and we're planning to go next. When we have more firm dates on all of that functionality, we'll get it added to the product roadmap that you have that's linked here.
Excellent. So, of course, we're here for any additional questions that we have wrapping up, but I did want to point you to this QR code. If you still have not downloaded the Quartzy mobile app, this will take you right to your respective app store to download it. So go on ahead and scan that if you're looking to download the app. You can also, of course, find scannable downloads in our support page about the app, and on our website. I believe that at your login we might still have a little advertisement for it as well. So Samantha, do we have any lingering questions?
Yes, we do. Thanks for asking. So this first question, it says, can you upload the OM barcode and be able to use that to check in items? So I'm assuming they're talking about their own generated barcodes. Can they use those to check in items?
Yes, absolutely. So if you've generated your own barcodes, if you are using them to associate to your serial number of an item, you can just scan those directly in the app. If the barcodes are associated to their own, self-generated numbers, the only thing that we will need to do is make sure that those numbers are associated to your inventory items. So you will just need to add a custom field to include that item in your inventory record. And again, you can do this in bulk. If you want to go back and look at our first session recording, you can do this in bulk by adding the custom field and then mass uploading these numbers in a spreadsheet.
Great, that's excellent. So there's a question about how the packing slip upload works and where does it save?
Excellent question. So the packing slip upload just allows you to capture an image of the packing slip when you are receiving. I believe, and Chris, you can correct me if I'm incorrect, but I believe this is stored within your request history.
Yeah, that's correct. It'll get attached as a file attachment, similar to how quotes are attached or something like that, on the individual request itself. So that means when you look at the request in any stage, so it'll end up being received when you go through this process. But when you look at the request in the received state, there will be a link to the file that you can view or download once it's accessed from the Quartzy web application.
And so just to let you know a little bit of what that will look like, I'm just going to navigate away from my presentation for a moment. So when you have an item within any point in your request workflow, there is a section where you can upload a file. And so, this is where the file where you've taken a picture of the packing slip will appear. People often use this for things like quotes or maybe a primer list, things like that. And so your packing slip picture upload will appear in this section of the item, but it will be in your received tab at that point. So you'll just see it here.
Excellent. And we have another question. If I don't have my phone, are packing slips able to be scanned with a scanner?
Chris, I will let you weigh in on that one as well.
Sure. So, yeah, I guess if you had a packing slip and a scanner, it would work as any other PDF attachment. I think you would just scan it and then from your computer access your printer, or I guess if you have a USB drive or something like that. The tricky part is just getting the data from your scanner to your computer at that point. That's totally fine. There's, in this case, we're calling it pack and click because that's what's relevant in this mobile flow. But in reality, you can attach any type of file you would like, and it'll get associated with the request that you're linking it to. So totally possible. We've had customers for years that have used the scanner, and then they bulk import them into Quartzy or some flow like that. And so we're trying to solve that with the pack and slip photo attachment. But yeah, it works either way. Even in that case, if you're able to access, like I guess this involves a phone, but the packing slip interaction, when you click it, it actually prompts you, do you want to take a picture right now? Or do you want to upload something that you've already got stored from your camera roll? So there's various options to access it, but yeah, you don't need a phone, you don't need a mobile device or tablet. Use your scanner. As long as you get that PDF to a web browser, you're able to link it just like Libby was showing.
Excellent. And Matthew clarified his question on the OM barcodes. So he's talking specifically about a barcode that is already printed on a product. So could they use that barcode that's on the product to mark it received?
I believe that, well, Chris, I'll let you weigh in on this one as well. Sorry to throw you in here so much, but I believe that we're looking into that.
It's a great question. I think you could solve this today with what Libby was talking about, where you could have a dedicated field, like the custom barcode field. You could put it in technical details or something like that. If you have a manufacturer's barcode, you can put that somewhere on the inventory item or on the request, and then you can scan it to receive it or request it or update it. That would definitely work. What I think Libby is referring to is another future concept that we have designs for, and we're working on kind of testing the concept. But the ability to scan a barcode, and when you don't have any results returned, add an interaction that lets you link that barcode. So okay, you just scanned Sigma's ethanol barcode and you didn't find anything, so then it prompts you to search. You find the item in your inventory, your request, and then there's a button that says link. And then that means in the future you could use that barcode going forward. That's again something we're looking at for next year.
That's such an exciting feature. Okay, so we have one last question. If they're using a tablet, can the packing slip be saved in the tablet or in the Quartzy inventory?
Great question. So in order to save the packing slip in the tablet or the Quartzy inventory, you would likely want to exercise the option that Chris was kind of talking about earlier, where you could also associate it to the request by having taken a picture on the tablet's camera roll. And then it will prompt you if you would like to pull a picture from your camera roll to add it to the request there. We could also add that to the inventory record in a similar way, but I believe you would need to be on the platform, the desktop platform of the app to be able to open an inventory item and upload a file here. So it looks very similar to the receiving workflow, but I don't believe we have functionality in the app to add a file to an inventory item at this time.
Yep, that's correct, Libby. Yep, not an option today.
How about creating a completely new item in the app? Is that ability coming soon?
I can take this one. It's something that we're aware of. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't use the word soon, I guess. We don't have a specific timeline for it. Right now, we're really focused on the items that you have already in your inventory and updating them. You can, of course, create an item when you receive it, right? If it was the first time you ordered this item, it's your first time requesting it, the first time you receive it, you do have the ability, of course, to create the inventory item at that time. But in terms of like a button that says create new item, that's going to be a addition at some point in the future. We'll put it on the roadmap as soon as we get a timeline specified for it.
Great. Well, that is all of our questions. Any last minute things you want to mention, Libby or Chris?
I just want to say, thank you so much for everyone coming today. I love how much you all have been engaging and asking questions. And, I'm so excited that you're also interested in using the app and getting your inventory up to date. So I want to thank everyone for participating so much.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I've got nothing else to add. Thank you so much, everybody.
Great. We did have one last one roll in, and this one I think is an excellent one to end on. So how about adding lot numbers in the mobile app? Can you add those?
That is a great question. That is something that we actually do have kind of our design specification and everything for that is ready. It was initially planned for later this year, but it might get bumped to earlier next year. But yeah, so basically the interaction would be when you're receiving something, it's still the same receiving interaction, but there's a new field for lot number as well as expiration date. That's an update that we should have in the nearer future.
Awesome. We look forward to it. We're so excited. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for attending.